Thank you, Alan, and thank you for all choosing this session. Well, for the last 5 years of my life, I've been helping a few key clients to improve the way they align with the business and their consultants to improve their consulting skills. So 5 years is a long time to try and squash into 19 minutes. So I'm going to just concentrate on 3 points. And the first one is that we need a structured process to engage with our clients, and I'm going to give you one. You can download the process from my website, and I'm actually going to give you my paperback that I give to people in my workshops so that you can read about the process. The second bit I want to cover is try and make this come alive for you and talk about the importance of building trust and empathy with your clients, not for its own sake, but so that you can challenge them in a helpful way. Because that's one of the keys to engaging with the business in a way that you build credibility. And the final one, a little bit for you if you're a consultant, how do you stay resilient in this difficult role? And by consultant I mean learning development professional. So where does this come from? These are the main clients I've been working with in the last few years, and 2 of them are here. It's nice to see you. It's not from theory, it's from training internal learning development people in a consulting methodology, giving them practice, letting them go out and try it for real with real clients, and then we always follow up and find out what's really happened. And it's mainly from these follow-up workshops and advanced workshops that the ideas I'm trying to pass over today have come from. First thing we need to deal with, why do we need a structured approach? And it's an invented word called solutioneering. Crazy word means what the client comes to you and they already have their idea of what solution they want. And they're already quite emotionally attached to that idea. There's some nodding here. People come in and say, we need a leadership course. Or we need sales coaching. On the bottom one, someone might talk to you after Christmas and say, what's your gym like? I need to join a new gym. Now, all of them are jumping straight to the solution. They're not thinking about the problem. I'll talk you through this. In ancient days, do you remember where we used to have training managers and courses and customers who asked training managers to put on courses? And it's quite normal to say, please, we want a project management course. The danger is the training manager has a trainer and training centre they want to fill, trainers they want to employ, someone who's interested in project management. The trainer organises a project management course. I used to, when I was a training manager at Blue Circle, I used to have a paper directory of courses. We put it on there. Training manager goes back to that customer and saying, done what you've asked. That course is on the list. Get your guys to go on it. You asked for it. Again, remember we used to have training centres, big country houses. People enjoyed going 3 days, 5-day courses. The trainers run the course. The learners or the consumers attend the course. And the problem is we're measuring all the wrong things. We're jumping to the solution that was given to us, and we're organising it well, and we're measuring how well we delivered on that instant solution, when it may not have been the right solution. This is what Charles Jennings calls a conspiracy of convenience. If you look at that diagram, there's nobody unhappy in this, what I call fantasy. The senior managers and middle managers can get rid of a problem and give it to somebody else, especially if the training department is going to pay for it. The training manager fills up their workload, and they can prove they can deliver good courses. The trainers are happy. A lot of trainers are failed actors. They love standing up. They're subject matter experts, some of them. They like learning about topics. And the staff themselves get a chance for a break, go away. They come back and say, well, how was the course? Oh, it was pretty good. The trainer was pretty good. Food was good. The danger is there's no link there back to the performance problem in the business. And there's no real drive to break across and get involved in the performance problems because everybody's happy. Everybody's happy as long as you can afford this conspiracy of training that was commissioned based on an instant solution. I think to break that cycle, your customers have so much pressure on them to find solutions that you're the one that has to be more systematic and have a process. That's why I train learning development people in a problem analysis process to use with their clients. Now, this is the one we used at AstraZeneca, Xerox, Reuters, and I know there's a lot on it, but it's only 7 steps. And I put that download. You can download this from my website. Feel free to use it. The key thing, it's 7 steps. There's nothing new here. I looked at a lot of consulting models and just tried to slim it down to the fundamentals so a consultant could keep it in their head. And I've even made this simpler more recently. The first bit about contracting with your client is just when they say, I want a project management course. Right, how long have you got to discuss it now? I then encourage you to get the client away from thinking about the solution to say, who do you want this project management course for? And map out the people involved. The middle bit is the critical bit. This is the performance gap analysis, classic gap analysis, to help the client think through, for these project managers, what are they doing now compared with what do you want them to do? And then the killer question, what's the cost of doing nothing about this gap? It's a whole new way of thinking about performance gaps and helping your clients quantify their performance gaps. Now, the bottom bits you should be very comfortable with in learning development because that's about solutions. But as Charles Jennings mentioned this morning, you're working with the client to think about motivation, environment, knowledge, and skill all together. What support do we need to give these people to get them to the desired performance on that right-hand side? And what you tend to end up with is a joint strategy with combined learning and development with management solutions. I think single solutions never work, and single target groups are never the real reason why a performance gap exists. This is the process that we use. When you use it, the client still will be solutioneering. They'll still be asking you, even in today, they will come and say, we need a leadership course. But the response is different. Well, let's say it's a project management course, the same example. You ask, who do you want that for? It's a safe, open question, and you start to draw out a picture of their project managers, for example. Their project managers won't perform in isolation. They'll have people working for them, project teams. They'll deliver things to customers. They'll have somebody managing them. You need to get the system that performs drawn out with the client. And you can start to see and help them see the reality of the system that performs, not their assumption that just one group needs something. The next thing, once you've identified this picture of who is involved, I would start to work with the client and say, well, what are they doing now? You need to contrast that with what you want them to do. It sounds so simple. It's so hard to do with clients to help them think, see the contrast between their people's performance. And the killer question, if we don't do anything about this, what will it cost you? Easy to say, but quite hard to quantify in measurable terms what effect closing this performance gap is going to have to you and the business. Once you've done that, as we mentioned before, you know what the problem is, you know how much it's costing, and you know who are the key players in this problem. You can start to look at a range of solutions, knowledge, skill, motivation, environment, tools. You can start to use websites. You can start to use a mixture of solutions, a blended set of solutions. The client is taking responsibility for some of them, and you're taking responsibility probably for some of the knowledge and skills ones. And now you can do proper evaluation, because you go back to that diagram and say, have these people reached that right-hand side of the diagram? Can they achieve that desired performance? So I was going to talk about 3 things. That's the first one, that I believe we need a structured approach, because our clients will solutioneer and push us down to instant solutions. The next thing we found critical is building enough credibility and trust with your client that they will allow you to challenge them to think through their business problems. And there's some simple tips. when the client comes to you full of enthusiasm for their leadership course, the worst thing you can say is, no, hang on, might not be a leadership course. Let's do an analysis process. You need to be perceived as helpful. When your client has an idea in their head, even if you think it's crazy, you've got to go along with it to start off with. And I would just repeat back with the same level of enthusiasm they have. You need a leadership course. And then the next question is, oh, who do you want that for? And they'll say, all our leaders. And you say, oh, which ones? The ones in Sweden? Well, no, not Sweden, just UK. Oh, how many? And get them talking about the problem, and without challenging them at the beginning that their idea of a leadership course may be ill-defined. You've got to be perceived as helpful and build enough trust and rapport with your clients to earn the right to help them, them to trust you, to open up, to look at their performance problems. One of the best ways I know to build that trust is to draw out a picture with them of their people and how they interact in this performance. And it can be quite safe. I usually get people to move aside, sit side by side on a table. So, draw me out here. Who have you got? Which project managers? How many? Where are they? This is an example. I know I'm sorry it's a mess. But it's real. Because once you've got the people down, you can start asking questions about what they do and who they interact with and how many of them interact. A very simple system diagram or a rich picture. You could label up this rich picture. By working together, drawing out this picture, sometimes this picture solves the whole problem. And sometimes when they draw the picture of the people, they realize it's not the project managers that need help, it's someone else on the diagram. And it can be, Tony Bazan's ideas, it's bringing in the power of color and a picture to analyze usually complex organizational problems. And you become their friend if you can see the world like they can see it. You don't have to do it one by one, that's in a group. See, the pink post-its were what I call the system diagram. And the yellow ones, we're trying to map out where people are now, where we want to get them to, and the cost of the organization. And on this wall here, we started to work on the potential solutions to get them there. And I worked with the actual people on the diagram to help design the solutions, so they were all bought into the solutions. In fact, on this one, we got the sales directors to come in on the first morning and give us their view of the performance gap, which is $30 million. And then they came back in on the final afternoon to see the suggested solutions that their team had come up with. And there was a lot of learning development solutions and a lot of other solutions all combined together. I was talking about building this credibility and trust because when you get to this part of the diagram, when you're helping the client see their own problem, the difference between where they are now and where they want to be, you have to be very sensitive because they have to open up their business figures. I'll give you some tips. The bit about where are your people now, I call it supportive challenge. You can't go in straight away and say, how are your people doing? They're not doing very well, are they? You've got to say, how are your people doing? So how are they, these project managers, how are they doing now? And they'll say, oh, not so good. Because they'll give you a general answer. You need to be gently probe and say, well, what does not so good mean? Well, project's a bit late. Oh, how late are they? Well, on average, each project's about 4 weeks late. And drawing that out of people is a great advance. You've now got a figure, something measurable. You can flip over to the other side then and say, oh, right, okay, so they're 4 weeks late at the moment. What do you want them to be able to do? And in this case, it's probably pretty simple. Hit their delivery targets. Now you now have enough data to calculate a cost of performance gap. Because you can say, so the difference is 4 weeks. What's 4 weeks worth to you? How many men have we got working on this? 100. How does it cost to employ 100 for 4 weeks? You can size up the cost of the gap, this 4-week delay. When they came in, they thought they wanted project management, and they thought the projects were doing badly. They hadn't actually quantified it to a performance gap. And a great question to ask. Some people are more motivated when you start this process by thinking about where they want to go. And if people ask you, I want a leadership course, a great question to say is, great, leadership course. Imagine we'd done the leadership course. What would you see your people doing differently when they came back? And if they can't describe that, it usually gets them thinking, and they say, that's a good way to buy a bit of time and say, let me have some time with you, and we'll map out exactly what your people will be doing better when they get back and try and quantify the difference between that and where they are now so that we can justify an appropriate investment in learning and development. The cost of the gap. In AstraZeneca, they call this whole process quantifying the performance gap. And it's very hard to do. The secret is you've got to quantify both sides of that equation. And then the cost of the gap is the resulting, that 4 weeks gap. So you need to get involved with your clients talking about real business facts and figures to have any chance of quantifying what benefit you're going to have working with them. The last bit to you, often get out business performance gaps of millions, but what really matters is the individual sitting in front of you that they're going to miss their bonus or they're going to be embarrassed. So, if you can do these things, I think you can start to move from being a potential order taker to being respected as a business partner and engaging with the business on a different level. It's not easy, and I think it's not easy because you are breaking that conspiracy of silence. It's much easier to avoid your problems. The best consultants I know have stayed resilient over quite a few years in their role until the benefits of working in this performance consulting role have started to come through the business. They've had a couple of years where they've got quite a lot of projected anger from line managers who say, why can't you do the training like you used to? Why can't we just have the training? Why do you... There's a few of you nodding. You need to be aware that that conspiracy of convenience and natural defense mechanisms in any organization mean we want to avoid our problems. A busy line manager has many different problems flying around. If they could just pin one down, project management, yeah, right, we need some project management training on that. I'll get rid of that. Someone else will take it away from me. They'll do it. It allows them to avoid for a while facing up to that problem. Now, if you're coming along and not allowing them that way out, there's a danger you get quite a lot of projected, even anger. And they can use their power to say, that training department, that learning development department, is not delivering like they used to. But, so solutioneering's got quite a lot going for it. And you may be breaking this cycle. But I think you can do something about it. I've been reading about resilience quite a lot recently. I'd recommend this book at the bottom. It's on the slides if you get the download of the slides. You can alter the way that you as an internal consultant cope with all these pressures by altering the way you think. And some of you will know this from sport. There's quite a lot on resilience in sport. It's basically that given a certain stimulus or adversity, the way we think about it alters the consequences. And to give you an example of my golf, when I drove the ball into the trees, before I read this book, I used to think, my self-talk was, I know I'm in the trees again, I'm going to have another bad round. I'm always in here. And you know what happened? Yeah, I fell apart. And now, if I go into the trees, I just think, right, I'm just in the trees. Get out on the fairway. I work on my mind, and the consequences has changed because I've become a much better golfer by managing the way I think about things. As an internal consultant, you'll be under lots of pressures. You'll feel it to deliver, and deliver quickly, instant solutions. But the way you think about it and staying resilient through this is something you'll need to learn. Or some people may be better suited to being that order taker role, and maybe being very good at that, but recognizing that some of your learning and development people may not actually make it to the consulting role. What I do with my consultants, we do quite a lot reinforcing, getting them to check all the stakeholders who have an expectation of them and flexing their behavior to make sure they keep everybody happy. Dealing with power and manipulation, you cannot use this diagnostic process with every meeting you go into. Sometimes, if you're dealing with a powerful person who has a lot more power than you and they're just trying to get this through, you may have to use more of a negotiating style and decide when not to use this process and just go along with it. Organizations are not rational places. Well, other organizations, in my experience, are quite power-ridden, and things are done not necessarily for the benefit of the business. And you need to recognize that part of your world as well to be successful and change and flex your behavior. So, how can learning development actively engage? I've tried to offer some of the tricks of the trade. I don't think it is by offering that schedule of courses. I think you should automate that, put it on the website. It's about engaging with people, the managers, about their real problems. In order to do that, you will have to build trust and rapport, and you need to get to the bottom of exposing performance problems, which need sensitivity and skill. So those are my 3 points. I think if you do them all, you can become a true business partner. So some of my clients have had tremendous successes. And to put this into context of today, in recession, I think this is more important than ever. It's a really good lever. I've been working with a client last week where we're using it as a lever that they've got to cut costs. Because they're now going, the learning development people are going back to their clients and saying, look, we have to cut costs. The old days of being able to spend a lot of money on training without us justifying the investment have gone. Can I come and see you about justifying this investment for that training? I want to ask you some questions about the problem to make sure we link it right back to the business benefit. And it's a really good way of opening the doors, giving you a bit of power when you go and talk to people in this consultative way and engaging with them in a level that they may not have done last year when they were giving you orders for lots of training which was free. And I think if you start behaving like this, in the end, you're going to be more valued by the business. Final slide. I'm going to give you a copy of my paperback. If you send me your, get in touch with me by my website or email, you say you're here, and I'll send you a copy. There's the references there of the other things I mentioned, because in the time we can't go into that much detail. I hope that's given you a flavour of how to engage with the business better.
Excellent. Thanks very much indeed, Nigel. Thank you.